accept whatever orders they're giving me today. I just want to start off with a little bit of poetic foreplay. One day I will swallow up the world. And when I do, I hope you all perish violently.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host, Elias Rauch. If you're feeling generous, go down to paypal.me/TheLuckyDogPodcast to help us continue to give you the most pristine, top-of-the-line, professional podcast we possibly can give you. All the donations go straight to the business of the Lucky Dog Podcast and help us grow and help keep the lights on, help us with new mics, help us produce better quality media for you. Thank you for all donations, and thank you for listening. Today we are discussing The Beach Bum, 2019, directed by Harmony Korine. Same director as Spring Breakers with, James Franco and Vanessa Hudgens, and was that Selena Gomez in that too? I forgot. I don't know. But so Harmony Korine, I'm going to kind of double back on his filmography and what he's most involved in. But let's talk about The Beach Bum real quick. The Beach Bum 2019 synopsis: a rebellious stoner named Moondog lives by his own rules. Moondog is played by Matthew McConaughey as Moondog, man. Snoop Dogg as Lingerie. Isla Fisher as Minnie, and Stefana Lavi Owen as Heather, Martin Lawrence as Captain Whack, and Zac Efron as Flicker, Jonah Hill as Lewis. So, as you can see, we have a stacked cast coming up with the Beach Bum. I want to keep calling it the Moondog. I'm going to fight not to say that. Stacked cast, interesting director, and he's also the writer as well. So how does it work? Is it good? Is The Beach Bum worth the $5-10 to go to the movies? Is it more of an experience than a film? Meh. It's a little bit up in the air. At an hour and 35 minutes, this is what feels like a stretch of a long story of a broken down writer that has come into contact with just these random individuals in his life. And so it feels much more of it's not like so much of like a dude, where's my car stoner piece, but it feels much more of, I was watching it thinking it's a beautiful film, but it feels like an elongated hour and a half music video. And that's what brings me back to Harmony Korine. I didn't know that this was directed by him, and I didn't have any correlation that Harmony is actually a music video director, most recently known for directing the Rihanna Needed Me video in 2016. He's done a couple commercials for Dior, the Black Keys music video for Gold on the Ceiling. He does a ton of music work, and you can tell throughout the majority of this film that through the cinematography and through the direction that this has a ton of that type of movie production quality to it. And I want to say that, first off, it looks phenomenal. I think the majority of the performances really work. They're individualistic. They don't all get their say, but it's not so much about all these characters having their own stories. It's much more all revolved around Moondog. But let me see if I can't find the cinematographer in here, because I was kind of blown away by the cinematography. I thought it was pretty good. Benoit Debby is he is the cinematographer for Enter the Void, okay, and The Sisters Brothers most recently, and the cinematographer for Spring Breakers. So, and Climax. I just saw Climax recently, and that was a crazy fucking film. I don't know if I'm going to do a podcast about it yet, but yeah, it's a gorgeous looking film, interestingly directed. I would say the biggest complaint I have about The Beach Bum is the narrative direction. And with saying that, it feels like Moondog is the proxy for us as the viewer, and we're kind of going along these, meeting these crazy people, through his wacky life. But it almost feels like, what is it for? What did we get out of this? What did we learn anything? Did he learn anything? Did anything come out of watching this hour and a half stoner, quote unquote comedy? It's advertised as a comedy, but it's kind of more like a downplayed comedy, is what I would say. It's not like 100% wacky, even though it does kind of go into the wacky territory. It's not quite campy. It's not quite wacky, but it's not quite flat out humor, like in a way that you're going to be busting out laughing. I think there are a lot of times that you're going to laugh if you're going to see it, but this very much is a different type of movie. And with saying that, I heard Harmony Korine had announced that there are several places in LA that they were allowing people to smoke joints while watching The Beach Bum. So this might be a movie where it's encouraged that you choose your vice. You have a drink, you take a puff. It might be that type of movie, if you're in the legal places to do it and of legal age. But yeah, this might be the movie where it is encouraging you to do that, because I swear almost every other scene this guy is smoking. I felt like I was watching a real Matthew McConaughey character, or him like on his off days or something like that when he wasn't filming True Detective or something. But he's the perfect character to play it. It's the writing that I feel like it does not adhere to, and I think that there's so many scenes where they're in slow motion smoking or dancing in a beautiful setting, but the writing just isn't there to give a substantial amount of weight to the characters. And that's my ultimate problem with The Beach Bum. I think it was majority of the time I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. I don't know if I'm gonna like the way this is going. But ultimately, I enjoyed the characters enough in the performances that were given from the characters to really satisfy an interesting movie. The very end, I'd say, is kind of like it's not fantastic. It kind of stumbles over its own narrative, in my opinion, of what it's trying to create, and I'm not really sure what it's trying to say. I probably need to listen to a couple podcasts to get a full revelation of what's going on throughout this entire movie. But I do believe that the main problems are derived from the writing. And if I remember Spring Breakers, that was another beautiful movie, and the writing was horrible, and it doesn't have nearly as great as actors as this. So The Beach Bum feels much more accessible from Harmony's Korine's lineup. So let's talk spoilers in 2019's The Beach Bum 2019. So by now, you would have watched The Beach Bum, or you don't give a shit. You're ready to hear all the goods, the spoiler talk. To be honest, there's not much to spoil. These are performances of Matthew McConaughey, Snoop Dogg, Jimmy Buffett, with the exception of pretty much everyone. I would say Zac Efron and Jonah Hill are kind of doing their own take on these crazy individuals, but Snoop Dogg and Matthew McConaughey feel like they're playing versions of themselves. We find out, it's not really a spoiler, but Snoop Dogg and Moondog's wife were kind of they were sleeping together for a while, and they make some jokes about it, but she ends up dying kind of unceremoniously. And once she dies, it starts to unravel what kind of movie this is. I think once you figure out that these characters are just here to pop in for a little bit and then pop out, and then that's just kind of the way it's going to be. And then Moondog's just going to go on his way. That's kind of the narrative structure of how the movie was going. And it's not like any of these characters all came together at the very end. None of these characters are all in the same room at the end, unlike the poster shows them to be. I mean, they don't have to be, but it's kind of, I don't know, it might feel like it's advertised a little bit like, hey, all these characters are going to be in there. No, they're not. These are more like short cameos from these characters. Snoop Dogg does have some pretty funny lines. But the way my quarrels come with the unceremoniously killing of the wife. I was like, okay, I sort of cared for her, but now I don't. And then the way they're treating her, they don't give a shit about her. So I was like, okay, so why should I give a shit about her? Going along with that, Moondog has to go to rehab. They go to rehab, and then they break out of rehab, and there's almost no repercussions for this guy, simply because he has a ton of money. And there's short flashbacks of Moondog. He's writing throughout most of the movie, or what's going on, sort of. He's writing, but he's also referring back to himself as being, a once great speaker, writer, this, that, the other. And we just get quick snippets of it, and I do like it, but I don't ever felt like it reflects back. I never felt like there was a time where he's just like, maybe I shouldn't be a beach bum. Maybe I shouldn't be a moon dog. Maybe I should do something with my life. And that's never reflected at all. It's Moondog just going all out. It looked like he burned his entire inheritance on a boat. Dude doesn't give a shit. He's so rich. And there's just scenes. I mean, what is it? Jonah Hill says, when you're rich, you can treat people like shit. It was like, what am I supposed to be getting out of this movie? And lines like that, I have no fucking idea, considering everyone on screen I've watched looked like they were having a fantastic time, living their real lives. It felt like we were just watching Snoop Dogg and Matthew McConaughey drive their Lambos, fuck women on yachts, and just act ridiculous, smoking tons of cannabis and this, that, and the other, and basically just breaking the law as many ways as they can. I didn't feel like I got anything narratively sound from the movie, from the film. It just didn't feel like it was a cohesive piece of media, despite how beautiful it was. I thought the visuals in it were, stunning. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Mandy last year. I thought the visuals in that were, were pretty stunning as well. But the cinematography, but simply the writing just can't match how good the performance is and the cinematography is. It's just, the writing is just not there. So that's my quarrels with The Beach Bum. I'm trying to think of anything else we need to add to it. Music was, it was sound. I kind of liked Moondog's. I think he had like a little. They had a specific sound they would put with Moondog. Let me see. John DeBeanie is the music department on this. He is responsible for The Jungle Book, The Greatest Showman, The Passion of the Christ, and Iron Man 2. So he's got an array of films under his filmography. So who knows? I'm anxious to see how this $5 million movie does. It's, done on such a small budget. I'm really curious what's going to, come of it. If anything, it could just be swept under the rug. A couple interesting things I saw on the IMDb trivia was Martin Lawrence hasn't been in a movie since Big Mama's House, Like Father, Like Son in 2011, which is 8 years ago. So that is quite a long time for Martin Lawrence to be out of the game. And I hear that he's trying to, I think they're linking back up, him and Will Smith are doing Bad Boys. It was great to have Martin Lawrence in. I thought let me talk about Zac Efron and, Zac Efron and Jonah Hill. I love the performances, but I didn't feel like anything of the movie, none of the movie had anything to do with their craziness. I don't know. It was just like these weird characters, these weird, wacky characters throughout the movie. I just was not like crazy about. I don't know. I liked Jonah Hill's performance. It's the character I'm not crazy about, and yeah, that's about it. I don't know. I don't really have too much more to say about it. I thought it was an okay movie. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 for right now. If I add any information that about this movie, I'll throw it in the show notes. Check out the show notes for any links you need for reaching us on all the social medias. Right now, we are streaming live on Twitch. We are also on Instagram. We are on Soundcloud for all the podcasts. We are also on Apple iTunes, and check other, you got CastBox and Google Play and all that good stuff. So check us out on there. The LuckyDogPodcast@gmail.com is where you need to reach us if you have comments, questions, concerns.
Shoot this shit here. Okay. Now I gotta feed my coke-addicted parrot. Yeah, set him up.
Thank you for listening to the Lucky Dog Podcast. Please go down to paypal.me/the Lucky Dog Podcast to donate. Thank you, and thank you for listening.